Hello everyone, welcome to next video tutorial on Rest Assured in my YouTube channel. So today we are going to learn to hit an API request using Rest Assured. Okay, so this time I'm going to use with the post request, not from the GET or any other request. Generally, you see in the other tutorials and all they start from GET. So, but here purposefully I am going to start with the post request, not from the GET request. Okay. So what maximum time I observe, like whenever people are learning this assured, so they are generally concerned with the syntax itself. Okay. Syntax itself means they see some very short lines of syntax, means very less number of lines, and they see everything is done. So many people are confused there only, like how they are writing that one. Okay, so for that only, to simplify that one, I'm going to break everything. I'm going to explain from very basics, from where you can understand how we reach to that particular shorter lines or less number of lines. Okay, so before that, in rest assured, to write any request, okay, maybe any static method you want to write, it will be majorly categorized within three steps. Okay, the first step is you need to build the request. Okay, building the request. Then second, hit request and get the response. Okay, and third will be validate the response. Okay, so let me go and explain this stage with an example. Okay, not from recessive code, but I will going to show you like which example API I am going to consider for this. So the very basic and simple one is the RESTful Booker. So you need to go to this particular website that is called restful-booker.heroapp.com, and they provide something you API docs. Okay. So this particular API documentation explains what are the APIs are provided by RESTful Booker and what actually they are supposed to do and how to do. Okay. So let me start directly with the create booking. And if you see this create booking, so it says that like to test any API, we need some basic details. Okay, so let me list out what are the details we need. Like suppose I want to hit, I want to test one API, right? It may be if you want to test using Postman or anything, any tool you use, we need to gather some informations. Okay, so what I will give the header like required details to hit an API. Okay. So first thing we need to get to know, first thing you need to find what is HTTP method supported. Okay. What is meaning of what is HTTP method? Like we see get, put, post, patch, delete. Those are called HTTP methods. Okay. So I believe that you have some basics idea of API. That's why I'm continuing with the race assured. I'm not cover those basic concepts, but yeah, if I will cover those things in future for sure. But as of now, HTTP methods, what are the HTTP verbs like put, get, put, post? Those are HTTP verbs, right? So first thing you need to know what are which HTTP method supports. Okay, if you see this particular example, this API is called create booking, right? Create booking. Okay, so let me gather the information for this. So first information we need to find out what are the HTTP method supports. Okay, so it is written here. It supports post. Okay, so answer we got this is post. Okay, second thing like where what is the endpoint. Okay, or what is the base URI or base path. Okay, means like suppose if I say you that okay, go and Google something, right? So you know what is a Google URL, right? You go and type there. Or if suppose you don't know something, like suppose you don't know my blog URL or complete address, then you go to Google and search, and Google gives you that URL, right? So it's something endpoint where the API is located, or something endpoint where you can find this particular things, right? Like suppose in a building, everyone has some address, right? So that you can directly go and search for that person in that building, right? Similarly, all the API will have their endpoints. Okay, endpoint means where that service will be available. That endpoint or that is called base URL. Okay, or base URI or base path. These are the very common term, but I will explain the difference. So if you see this particular URL, so this is called actually one base URI. Okay, in fact we can call it a URI. Okay, if you copy this one and let me paste, like the second will be find URL. Okay, we found the URL here, right? If you see this particular URL has actually two parts. Okay, if you see before this slash, okay, this will be one base URL. Okay, and this booking will be base path. What is meaning of base URL and base path, right? So let me show you some example. Okay, so if I go to what do you call that, suppose I go to makecinemaeasy.com, which is my blog, right? So let it open. If you see, this is called like plain plain means very base, not very base URL, right? If I go to, suppose if I want to go to interview experience, right? So let me close this ad, and if you see, now you can see the URL got changed, right? My URL got changed. Okay, earlier it was this much only. Okay, now this got added, which navigates me to the interview experience page, right? It all post has the interview experience. Suppose if I want to go to Java for Selenium, right? I click on it, okay, and just see how the URL will be changing. Okay, again my URL got changed in address bar. Again, if you see, this part is common, right? This part is common. Here also this part is common. Both the URL have two things. This first part is common. This is being changed, right? This is being, these are changing here. What is the meaning of this? The first part, right? Before makesenameeasy.com, this is called base URL. Okay, base URL, and this is called base path. Okay, base path means it is explicitly representing some information or resource information. Okay, similarly, if you see this particular RESTful Booker URL or API or endpoint, this part is called base URL. Okay, and booking will be called base path. If you go to any other API, it is like suppose create token. Here also you see this part is common. Okay, you can see this part is common and auth is changing. Similarly, if you go for the health check, right? So this part is common, okay, and this ping is changing. Okay, means we they have the same base URI, but base path is changing. Base path is actually responsible to navigate to your particular resource information. Okay, so for this example, we need to find what is the URL. In that URL, we need to find base URL and base path. Okay, so here we have both the things ready. So what is my base URL here? Base URL will be this part. Okay, let me cut it, and the booking will be base path, right? Booking will be base path. So let me put the slash here itself. Okay, so we got two important informations. What is your HTTP method supported by the API, and what is the endpoint? Okay, third thing, since it is a post request, right? Post requests are generally responsible to create a new resource on the server, right? To create a new resource, obviously you need to pass some data. Suppose if you want to create a new Facebook account, you need to pass all the data like your first name, last name, mobile number, email ID, so that Facebook server will create an account for you. Similarly, this particular API is responsible to create a booking for you. So obviously you need to pass the details so that they can create a booking for you, right? So if you see here, so if you see this JSON example usage, right? So leave about this curl and what is that curl and all, so don't bother about that one. But if you see inside this curl command, you have something called -d, right? After -d, whatever you see, that is called payload or data which should be sent to the server to get the task done. Okay, so let me copy it and put it here, like find payload. Okay, find payload. If you see this payload carefully, so we have something like first name, last name, total price, everything we need to pass it here. Okay, so this format is called JSON format. Okay, like suppose we use Excel sheet, right? So in Excel sheet we have some format, we have rows and column, and then we pass the data. Similarly, if you're very new to JSON and all, you don't understand what is JSON and all, leave it. As of now, you can understand that this is a format in which you need to pass the data as a key value pair, where key will be first name and the value will be Jim. Okay, well, key will be last name and some value will be Brown. Okay, and if you see these four are same, right? Four are they are similar. But if you see booking date, so you might be confused, right? So as of now, what you can understand that whenever you have some related informations, okay, like suppose if I ask you address and I ask you your first name and last name, then you give me the first name like Amod, last name is Mahajan, right? But your address will contain so many components like your building name, your flat number, your some area locality, then you need to put the state name. Before state name you have to put the city name, right, district name and pin code. These things you need to put it, right? So generally all these details should be combinedly can be called as address, right? As an address. So following the same pattern, if we talk about the booking dates, right? Booking dates can be check-in and check-out when you're coming and when you're going, right? Okay. So that they have grouped within under called booking dates. As of now, you can understand this much only, right? That they have two details like check-in and check-out, and they, if you see this check-in, right? So this is similar to this one only, right? Same format. But these two details are related, okay, so that they have grouped under booking dates. That's all. As of now, you can understand. Okay, don't bother about if you are not understanding what is JSON format or what this format. I will explain. But as of now, you can understand that in this format, you change the data. You need to pass the data. So you can ask me like, do we need to pass the same data whatever we copied? No. This is just an example here. If you can see JSON example usage, you can pass any data here. Like suppose I want to get a booking for myself, I will change it, right? So what is my full name? I given here total price. I want to go for cheaper one, so I will pay only 15. Deposit paid. No, I am poor. I will not pay the deposit. And let me put something like 21. I want to go, right? Because 2021 is coming now, so I'm going for this. And I don't want breakfast. I want lunch. Okay, so simply I filled up the data. So actually this is happening at the back end. Like if you see any example of client server architecture, or suppose you are using Facebook, and whenever creating any account, you pass the details internally. One API request will be sent using this those data whatever you have entered. Okay, so they will also form some data like this only. Okay, so here I filled up the details. And API good, any good API documentation will give you all the details like what are the fields should be part of a request body. Okay, so you can see all fields details they have given like here, like first name, what's the type is string, what's with the type of last name, it should be string, what's with the type of prototype, should be number, you cannot put a string. So this is called API documentation, where they provide you all the details. That details means what are the fields you need to pass and in which format and what are the allowed values. If you go for proper API documentation, they will give all the details. You don't need to, like suppose you have something additional needs, but you don't know what are the supported values. Okay, you can have only breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Some hotel may provide only breakfast, not lunch and dinner, right? Like it's a similar kind of thing. Like we have some drop down. In that drop down, we select the values because that drop down gives you an information like what are the things are available. Similarly here, any good API documentation will give you all the details, right? So we got it here. Okay, so we are ready with the very basic details before we hit any API. Okay, so what I will do before jumping to the postman, sorry, before jumping to rest assured, okay, I will explain this. I will hit this request in postman and then show you how it works. Then we'll go to rest assured, because that is the best way of learning. Okay, so what I need to do, let me open postman. Okay, so I will start another series on postman very soon, but I hope if you are watching this video, then you should know some basics of postman. So postman is another tool or another desktop based tool which helps you to hit the API, okay, in very simple ways. It has UI to do that one. So what I'm going to do, let me close all these tabs. I don't want to save it. Okay, I will start in a request. And what is the first detail I have found, like which HTTP message support? It is a post. Okay, then select the post from here. Okay, then what is my URL? Okay, so here in generally in postman we don't bother about pass it separately. Okay, so what you can do, we can combine both base URL and base path. Generally, in if you want to hit any API, so we need to combine base URL and base path both, right? So this will be the base URL, and what is the base path? That is called booking. Okay, called booking. Okay, now this, since it is a post request, so we need to pass some data. Let me pass it. Okay, let me pass it. Go to body, select raw, and then select JSON, right? And give the body here. Okay, okay, whatever details we have given, everything here. Let me hit send, right? So yeah, we are success, and we're getting something status called 200. Okay, and we got a booking ID, which means that whatever details we have sent, that is proper, and we got a booking ID. Like when you book a flight, you get a PNR, right? That PNR represents your booking details. Similarly, when the booking is successful, we got one booking ID here, right? So this we have perfectly hit in postman. Now let me do the same thing in rest assured. Okay, the purpose of showing this in postman, just to demonstrate that whatever details is required to hit an API, we have everything available. Okay, now let's go to the project, Maven project, which we created in last video, that is called rest assured project MSC, right? So let me go and let me under SRC phase Java, let me create one package. Okay, now I will name it RESTful Booker. Okay, because I'm going to show you so many examples. That's why I created one package for the RESTful Booker itself. Let me create another class called create booking. Okay, perfect. Now let me maximize it. Let me create a main method here. As of now, we have not added testng, so let me create a main method here. Okay, now if you see this slide, so here I've explained that to hit any request, we need three things, right? So let me copy these three lines and paste it here. Okay, build request, hit request and get the response and validate response. So let me build the request first. Okay, so we know in Postman it's very simple, right? We have easily built it, but in this assured, you need to do so many things explicitly. Okay, postman does postman does a lot of things, okay, without knowing you, but here we need to explicitly say. Okay, so what are things we need to say? Before that, we need to construct the request, right? So in this assured, to construct the request or construct a request is called request specification. Okay, so before going to request specification, or to before we start the request, building the request, we need to use one class that is called race assured. Okay, race assured is a class, and this is the major class which contains all of the methods. Okay, this particular race assured class contains a method called given. Okay, and if you see, this is a class name, and I use dot given class name dot method name. That means given is a static method within the recessive class. That's why I use the class name as a reference. If you see here, this particular given method, the return type of this given method is the request specification, and it is coming from reassured. Okay, so the term return type only I was talking about request specification. Okay, so let me store whatever it is returning into a request specification type. Okay, so request specification is an interface actually. Okay, so what I have given, I simply created an empty jar kind of thing. Empty jar, there is nothing. I simply created one request specification which is empty as of now. Okay, and how did we create? Using the one static method in the associate class that is called given. Okay, so the associate.given gave me one instance or gave me a reference of request specification which has nothing as of now. Now we need to start the building the request. Okay, so first thing here, when you're building the request, we need to provide, instead of directly starting with the post, right? In the postman we first selected the post, right? But don't do the post here. In this episode, first set the base URL and base path. Okay, so in this episode you can set it separately. How? In the request specification interface, we have methods to do those things. Like if you want to set the base URL, call the base URL method. Okay, sorry, base URI method. So generally, I will also interchangeably use both the terms, but both are almost same. Okay. So generally, what is the main thing when you combine the base URI and base part, that is called as base URL. Okay. So base URI, and what is the base URI? This is the base URI, right? So let me copy it. Let me copy it and paste on the base URI. Okay. And what is called base path? We have got the base path. So you need to set the base path. So what is base path? Booking. Okay. So if you see in Postman, we manually added these two things, base URI and base path, and then we pasted in Postman, which you can see here, right? This is the complete base URL. But here, whenever you are creating the request, so REST will automatically combine them. Automatically combine them. Okay. You don't need to combine and give. They will only combine for you. Okay, in fact you can directly give also, that we'll see later, but as of now we are covering step by step. So what we have done, we have created one empty request jar, request something, there is nothing as of now. In that request we say that okay, this request should have the base URI this and base path as this. Okay, and the major things comes like we need to pass the body as well. So simple, we have very simple method, request specification dot body. Okay, we can see by the name only you can get it. So we have not what we'll do is simply copy paste, as we have copied in Postman, simply we copy from here and paste within the double quotes. Okay, so automatically it will put some slash and r slash r and slash n, that is like to escape. Okay, so leave that. Whatever you have JSON body, copy it and put under the request, put under the body method. Okay, so we have added base URI, base path, and body. Means we have created one request, empty request first. In that request, we added three details, but there is one major part. If you see here in Postman, once we pass this particular JSON body in headers, they automatically add one content type called application/JSON. Okay, what is meaning of content type? The meaning of content type is something like in which format you are sending the request. Okay, in which format you are sending the request. Okay, like suppose in our Selenium framework, if you're using, then we may read the data from JSON file or XML file. You can read some data from DV. You can also use the ML file. Right? We can use multiple sources, but we need to know how we are reading, how we are sending the data. Similarly, API also needs to know in which format you are sending the data to the server. Okay, many API can automatically find out that one, but all the API will not find, right? That's why this postman does this for us, and as soon as we pass the JSON body, they add one content type automatically, that is called application slash JSON. But here in this also they will not add. What you need to do, you need to say explicitly that this request will handle the JSON payload. Okay, for that what you need to do, request specification dot contain type. Okay, content type, here we can pass the content type as application slash JSON. What is the meaning of this? That we are sending one JSON payload, right? One JSON payload. Okay, so you can see here in the empty request we have added base URI, base path, body and content type. So let me explain one very simple concept here. If you see here, content type, we pass something application slash JSON, right? But suppose this something were copied, or suppose someone is typing, so they might make a mistake, like instead of small a, they put capital A, or here they are confused what how to pass, right? They might be confused. So instead of that, they have provided overloaded content type method. Okay, overloaded content type method. Here we have two content type method, one takes the string, another takes a content type enum. So what is the meaning of this? Just to avoid any mistake, you can pass content type dot JSON. Okay, so automatically they will take care of it. So that is called enum concept, and this also I force when you are using any other things. Instead of typing or where the user can make the mistake, simply have some enum and create the constant. So I've done the same thing here. This means I am not getting any content type and all. This is provided by this assured, where you can pass any content type here, whatever content are supported. Okay, so we are actually finally done with the request. We have formed the request, we have said that how our request will look like. So whatever request details we need to have, those things we have added. Okay, base URI, base path, body and content type. So we are first step we are done. Now second step is hit request and get the response. So how to hit the request? In post, in the postman, we simply click send. How we do it here? So actually in this assured, to hit any API, we have the same method equal to HTTP method name. Means uh, on this request we need to hit the request. In this request specification we need to hit the post, right? So what you need to do, simply use request specification, then which HTTP method supports post, right? Simply click dot and type POST. Okay, post. So to hit any API in this assured, you have to call the same method. Okay, this particular class has those three methods only, like post, get, put, everything you have. But this is a post request. So what I did, simply click dot post, and okay. So let me see, if you when you call this post method, right? Okay, so we have overloaded method also, but we'll not see as of now. I will explain this overloaded method later. Okay, if you see this one, this particular post, whatever the first one, it returns you returns an instance or a type of response, right? Response. So let me store this in a response type, and response is again interface. Okay, response. Okay, so let me import it from the the associated package. You can see this response in interface. Okay, so interface are the major part to create abstraction or layers. Okay, and generally we generally confuse like where to use interface and all, and this is also very famous interview question. If you see in Selenium, Java dog also, they have so many interfaces, right? So here also, here request specification is also one interface and response is also one interface. So we are done with the second step, that is called hit request and get the response. Okay, now we need to validate the response. Like we can see manually in Postman, when you hit the request, we got 200 and we got something booking ID and the details. So we validate manually, right? How can we do in post race assured? So for that, what you need to do in the response, okay? In the response, we have one method called then. Okay, this particular then method gives you one type of something validatable response. Okay, means whatever response we have got it, we cannot go and verify directly on this. First we need to convert that into a validatable response. Okay, which you can get by calling the then method. So what is the return type? Validatable response. This is again one interface only. Okay, validatable response. Okay, so what we did, we hit the request, we got one response, and that response we converted into a type which can be used to assert something. Okay, so first thing what we want to assert, I want to assert the status code. So it's simple, we did response, and we have method to do that only, status code. Okay, what status code we expecting? We expecting 200. Okay, as of now we are going to be added only this much. Okay, because we need to know how can we construct the request and hit it and break, how we are breaking it up, right? So what we have done, we have created the request. In the request specification we have provided the base URL, base URI, base path, we pass the body and we pass the content, and we know why we are passing these details. Then the second step says that go and hit the request. To hit the request, you need to call the same HTTP method. Okay, request specification. Then we have, once you hit the request, we get the type of response, which is again one interface. Actually this interface we cannot directly validate, right? That's why we need to get a validable response type. Okay, why that this actually we cannot validate and all this I am saying just to make you understand, but really this is the problem of, this is the because of the architecture. Like if suppose if you're writing web driver directly to new cron driver to take the screenshot or use a JavaScript like give it a method, we need to downcast it, right? Similar things are, similar concepts are here also, but that thing I will explain you later. But as of now, in response we cannot directly validate. That's why what I did, I retrieved the validatable response type which I can get using the then method. Okay, this then method provided by the response interface actually. Okay, so, and what we are going, just verifying the status code as of now. So we are ready. Let me hit the this request. So to run any Java class, want to do, there are so many ways to do. Simply right click, run as Java application. Okay. So let me see whether it runs or not. So it should open the console. Okay. So okay, it's not printing anything because we have not given any line which prints anything, right? So just to show you like what you call that, it should print also something, right? So what we can do, we can, as of now we can put the log. Okay, don't bother if you don't understand, just to show you something like how the request will look like. I'm going to add a method called log.call. Okay, so that we can do. Okay, so one thing I've added, if you see here, or let me break it also again for you. Okay, this is correct, right? What I'll do, I want that whenever we are when I will hit the request, I want to see something on console. Okay, console means how the requests are going and what response is coming. For that, what you need to do, you need to put the logger. Okay, request specification dot log. Okay, okay, and log. You can see this gives you one request log specification, right? Request log specification, and then call one method called all, right? All. And if you see the return type of this is all, the return type of method called all is again request specification only. What I'll do, I'm going to store the same object, just to want to keep the same reference here. Okay. Okay, like suppose when you are when you are getting the service string, then we generally store in the same string only, right? Just to use the same variable. So instead of getting another request for the instance, what I did, up this log dot all, whatever all is returning, I am storing in the same request whatever we've created. Let me run it. This time we should see some logging. Okay, obviously we are seeing here, so let me go here, and if you see here, this logger method reset should be gives you all the details. Okay, so what it is, request method. Okay, this is coming from logger. We are, because we have put the log dot all, means it will log everything. So what is request method? It is a post. What is URI? This is the URI, and you can see this has combined base URI and base path, right? We have we don't have any proxy, we don't request, so that's why it's none. But header, you can see we have passed the content type. We have passed the content type, that's why it is printing. Okay, we don't have cookies, don't have multiparts, and whatever request body we have provided, it has uh, given here. Okay, but now you can see that there's no, what you call that, is response and all. Okay, how to log response and all that I will cover later, but as of now we see this requests are proper, right? It is hitting the proper. And just if you want to see whether we are getting 200 or not, what you can do is simply go here and change the static while 400. Okay, which is invalid, we will not get the 400. Okay, so what is expected here, this our test case should fail here, right? So let me hit it again, and okay, so we got some error. And if you see here, one expectation failed. Expectation the score is 400 but was 200. That's when we're getting some proper, we are getting the booking ID and all, right? So I will also explain that how can we log the response body also in the next video. Okay, but this is the simple way, or this is the detailed way you create the request. But whatever example you see, those are very thin, very few lines of code they write it, right? But if I write the same code for you also again, then you will not understand, or you might be, there will no difference between the other tutorials and my tutorial, right? That's why what I've done, I simply broke, like I broken the steps, right? I broke the steps in very, like how it goes there. And in the next video, I will show you that how I will go from here to that those steps of syntax. Okay, but any API will have, to hit any API request in this setup, you need to go into 3 steps, build the request. Okay, we may need to pass multiple things in request, but for this API, we have only this much. Okay, whenever we see the new other example, there I will include more. Okay, so add the build, create the build, or create the request. Okay, hit the request. Okay, and validate the response. Okay, so to validate the response, there are again so many things, but yeah, these are just the basics as of now. So we will stop it here only, and I hope that you understand like how it goes step by step. Okay, in the next two videos, I will show you that how can we go for the shorter way, and the another video I will show you that how RSSO says that it supports the BDD and what is the meaning of BDD supported by RSSO. Okay, perfect. So till that, you revise this one, or you see this videos multiple times if you are not getting, and If you have any doubt, you can always comment, you can always send out a mail, and you can always reach out to me on Facebook, or if you have my contact number, you can also message me on WhatsApp. Okay, so I hope this video will help you to understand this recessive request in detail. And if you really like, then I want to say that please subscribe and share it with others. Thank you everyone.